Hello and welcome to Khaleej Times. It's a privilege to have with us Honorable Minister for Investments in Sri Lanka, Mr. Amunugama, who is going to be talking to us about the revival of the Sri Lankan economy. And we'll start with, tell us a little bit about what steps Sri Lanka has taken to mitigate the effects of the worst economic crisis in 75 years.
Yeah, first of all, Manisha, I would like to thank your institution for giving us the opportunity to come and present our views and also to present our case as to how we have come out of the economic crisis and what we are trying to do with developing the economy. So the answer to your question will be yes, we were hit by one of the worst economic crisis that I would say that Sri Lanka had ever faced. Even during the time of the war, we were not impacted by an economic crisis of this sort. But of course, as you know, post-war, after the war, there was a lot of development in the country and terrorism was eradicated, so we were on the climb. But unfortunately, the whole world was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, the government managed to manage the pandemic, I would say, quite well, where the debt was also kept quite low. And the health setup, I would say, did a good job on managing the pandemic situation. But of course, the economic impact which was created by the pandemic was not able to be managed in that manner due to the economic situation which prevailed in the country. As you know, developing countries, most of the developing countries or the third world countries always operate with a bit of a budget deficit which is carried forward and which results in borrowing. So we had quite a bit of debts as well. When we were hit by the impact of the pandemic, our borrowing capability also was taken off, which resulted in the inflation going up to 67%. And also there were fuel shortages, not that there was no fuel, but there were no forex to buy the fuel, which resulted in queues in fuel stations and also power cuts, also which resulted in public uprising, which ended up in basically a change, you could even say a change of government. And of course, the president also had to step down. And for the first time in history, though the registration was there, it was up to us, the MPs, to decide or to elect a president through the parliament, which had never been practiced before in Sri Lanka, which we did. So we feel we made the right decision by appointing H.C. Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was of course alone in parliament at that time, but very experienced politician. And I would like to say that we selected the correct pilot to fly through the storm. Since he took office, there have been certain policy decisions that had been taken, like engaging with the IMF, which had not been done previously.
Yeah, I want to come to that. I think the IMF program was a big milestone, is a big milestone for Sri Lanka.
Of course.
But what steps are being taken to meet the IMF bailout conditions?
Yeah, so we have come out of the first session or the first phase of it quite successfully, where we had several discussions with the IMF. Of course, everything suggested by the IMF also in some instance cannot be applied to a certain extent with the current situation, but still we have negotiated and we have managed to come to agreements, and we have successfully walked through the first phase, which has of course resulted in the inflation going down and the currency being stabilized. It was like fluctuating up and down at quite a fast rate, but now it's in a stable position. Inflation has come down from 67% to about 4%. So I would say we have been quite fast to recover. Within 9 months, we have managed to come down to 4% from 67%. And to give you a snapshot of the whole thing, we have started paying our loans. So this is where we stand right now, and we are discussing the second phase of it. We have engaged, the finance ministry has also engaged with the second stage of the IMF. There are certain restructurings of certain institutions that has to be done, like the loss-making public sector institutions will be restructured, or maybe some of them will be even scrapped. And also certain institutions will be restructured, like the Department of Petroleum and then the Electricity Board, maybe even the airlines. They will be restructured according to the scope of the IMF. So we have already started the restructuring process, and of course beyond that the debt restructuring program also is on way. Excellency the President visited India. He was in California. Right now he is in China negotiating. He was in Japan. So these are some of the countries that we have borrowed quite a bit of finances, and the debt restructuring program also, I would say, is on schedule. So I would say that Sri Lanka is back on track. Okay. We have managed to fly out of the storm. We have started paying our loans. There are no queues. There are no fuel shortages. We have got new companies like Sinopec who came and invested, and they have engaged. So I would say Sri Lanka is back.
Okay. On track. How would you see? Do you see any future tie-ups with UAE or GCC when it comes to boosting trade and investment into Sri Lanka?
Yes. Now this is what we are working on right now, because of course, as you know, debt restructuring and IMF programs, all these will be temporary measures. But the final or the concrete way out would be to boost whatever the industries or the areas which will bring in more finances. So of course the lowest hanging fruit will be tourism, which we are pushing hard on it. We want to have a few road shows of course in Dubai, and then in other countries around the world as well. And of course we are looking at FDIs as well, but as you would agree with me, we need to do a little bit more of our homework to attract investors where they might not be happy with the investment environment right now. But we are on a new program where a subcommittee has been appointed by His Excellency the President, where we are doing up a comprehensive new investment law, which will be the comprehensive law for investment. Okay. So whatever the hazardous processes or the approval processes that you have to go through right now will be taken off, and there will be a one-stop shop or one set of rules and regulations which will be very simple in a way, and which would be also quite attractive, where you could engage with mainly the BOI, the Board of Investment, which would grant you all the approvals, and investors would not have to go from pillar to post. And the law is being drafted. Okay. We are planning to get it passed in Parliament somewhere in December. Okay. And if everything goes good, by beginning of 2024, we should be able to start off with the new investment policy and the law.
Okay, so clearly you're looking at FDI in a big way when it comes to boosting the economy. Can we also talk a little bit? You spoke a little briefly about tourism. Is tourism an important sector for you to boost the economy? In what way has it helped?
It is a very important sector because it had always been about a 5 billion rupee area, which brought in quite a sum of money to the country. And of course, as you know, Sri Lanka is a very beautiful country, and you talk to anyone, their first thing they will say is, well, Sri Lanka is a beautiful place. So it is a beautiful place, and this is why we are trying to promote the tourism. As well, our country is with a population of about 22 to 24 million people. So I wouldn't say that's a lot, but I wouldn't say it's too little as well. But of course, tourism is a key aspect that we are looking at. So number one, if we put it in order, I would say that number one would be the agriculture sector, where we are putting our foot down on the agriculture modernization program. Tourism will be, of course, number 2, because as you know, food security is also important. And of course, investment will come down the slot to number 3, where we will have the comprehensive new rules, the one-stop shop, and of course, a new set of incentives, where we will in future even allow the land ownership to foreigners. And also, as it is also, you can own your company 100%. 100% repatriation of your profits are already allowed. We have come up with a package of a 2-year grace period, where you invest and you start off and you don't pay taxes for 2 years. There's a new facility called the Enhanced Capital Allowance, where you invest and you don't pay taxes till you have recovered your investment. And also we have come up with a few new packages where we have fixed certain thresholds, where you match that threshold and you go duty free or tax free for quite some time. Like the latest paper that I managed to pass in Parliament was where you could invest $50 million on assembling EVs. You import on SKD form, and if you assemble and you invest 50 million, you could go duty free or tax free for a 2-year period. So, and also there are 3 models. One is the BOI setup, where if you're an export company, where your imports are free, you manufacture whatever and export, you are not taxed. And then of course you can remit your profits. The second version is the Colombo Port City, which we are promoting. The legislation has been completed. We are ready to go. We got about 18 operators who have already engaged, which is a totally offshore model. You can work in whatever currency you wish to within the Colombo Port City. Of course, it won't be a zone of manufacturing, but it will be more financial or entertainment type of city within Colombo. And of course, the third model, which is the SDPs, which is called the Strategic Development Projects, where you could tailor make the incentives for a certain project depending on how much the investment is. So how that is done is you assess the investment, see how worthwhile it is for the country, then you put the incentives together, you negotiate with the investor and you pass it in cabinet. And once it's approved by cabinet, it is stated as a strategic development project for whatever the number of years that we sign in with.
Okay. So, looks like Sri Lanka is, I mean, it has miraculously sort of, overturned the economic crisis in a very short span of time. That's I think, right. 9 months?
9 months, basically 9 months.
For 2024, what would be the reform mantra, according to you, for Sri Lanka?
Well, we don't want to rock the boat too much. So, of course, we will stick to the IMF program as well. We are very confident that the debt restructuring program will have a positive outcome. And of course, we have already started paying our loans, and we are not asking for a haircut, or we are not asking for a cut on our loans, right. But we are just asking for more time for the payment of our loans, which we will stick to the whatever the timetables are. And of course, as I stated previously, we will be banking on, okay, if you say what the key points are, it will be once again agriculture, tourism, and investment with a lot of incentives,
right.
Given to investors coming in and investing. Most of all, that's why I want to thank your institution also, is things have changed. We are back on track. But the view of the country, or whatever the impact was previously, we need to spread the word around. So we appreciate the assistance or the opportunity given by your institution as a minister from Sri Lanka, and we want to thank you for that as well.
Okay, so key takeaways, a lot of emphasis on tourism, on agriculture and food security, as well as investment. And in Sri Lanka seems to have stabilized, and in 2024 more stabilization, IMF bailout on track, and we wish you all the best, sir. Thank you so much for being on Khaleej Times.
Thank you very much for giving Sri Lanka this opportunity to tell the world that we are back on track. Thank you very much.